My name is Farron, and throughout my life, I've preferred observing patterns rather than making hasty judgments. This approach has been beneficial in my business endeavors, where I've learned that patience and precision often lead to more favorable outcomes compared to impulsive actions. This mindset also extended to my marriage with Mayan, which lasted for 6 years. To outsiders, we seemed like a stable couple, not one to flaunt our relationship online with love notes or elaborate anniversary posts. Instead, we kept our bond private, intimate, and grounded in what I believed was mutual respect. Our daily routine included savoring morning coffee from our individual mugs, preparing and enjoying simple dinners together in the evenings, and escaping to peaceful corners of the city for weekend getaways. This rhythm felt familiar, reliable, and comforting. However, it was on a Thursday night when I first noticed a significant strain in our relationship, although I didn't initially realize its magnitude. Mayan had assured me that she would be home by 8 p.m. She had planned to cook her favorite pasta with fresh basil for dinner. However, as the evening passed by, the pasta grew cold and congealed in the pot. It was already 10 when she finally arrived at 10:42 p.m., appearing a bit disheveled and off balance, not intoxicated but as if she had been caught in the rain without an umbrella. She loosened the straps of her high heels as she explained that work had kept her late due to a new campaign and everyone pulling double shifts. Megan, concerned that she hadn't received any text, was met with a dismissive shrug and an explanation that her phone had died. Despite trying to believe her friend, Megan noticed the subtle unease in her demeanor. When she caught a whiff of a familiar citrusy perfume that her friend had stopped wearing months ago for being too flirty for the office, she couldn't help but question her further. With a forced light tone, Megan commented on the old perfume, reminding her friend that she had stopped using it. This caused a quick flicker of tension between the two friends. In her gaze, I must have accidentally taken it this morning. I didn't realize I hadn't pressed. It's not my nature to force someone into confessing. Later that evening, as she was brushing her teeth, I noticed her phone on the kitchen counter. A quick glance revealed it was at 47% battery, clearly not dead. I hadn't seen her charging it at any point. I returned it without evidence, just a gut feeling. The kind of unease that arises when you feel someone close is moving towards shadows. The next week, Megan brought up a new colleague at her office, a man named Tyson, consultant from Los Angeles assisting with their digital strategy restructuring. Megan, tossing a salad at the kitchen island, remarked, "He's got that typical California calm, like nothing phases him. People here could learn from him." Parent, sipping water, asked, "So, Tyson is your boss now?" Megan responded, "No, not exactly. We collaborate closely. He's quite sharp." Her tone was composed, almost clinical, but slightly forced. She was attempting not to sound too interested. Over the course of the next few days, her interest in Tyson became increasingly evident. She mentioned him in passing at least 6 times, sharing anecdotes about his work ethic or casually remarking about how impressive he was. One evening, I caught her giggling at something on her phone, and when I asked what she found amusing, she quickly turned it face down. Trying to lighten the mood, I joked that it was probably just a meme related to work. I reassured her that I preferred collecting data over demanding immediate answers, a trait that carried over into all aspects of my life. As the week progressed, Megan started staying out late more often. One night, she returned home around midnight, claiming to have been reviewing presentations with Tyson for hours. I noted the details, including the mismatched button on her blouse that seemed hastily fixed, and the unexpected choice of wearing her pearl earrings, typically reserved for special occasions like our anniversary dinners. Feeling increasingly concerned, I began to document everything in writing. I opted to hire a private investigator, but I also maintained a discreet log on my phone. On Monday, Maiden mentioned a strategy dinner with upper management. To verify this, I cross-checked her office calendar on our shared tablet, but found no such meeting listed. The next day, I called her office at 7:15 p.m. and a junior analyst named Serena informed me that Megan had already left hours ago, mentioning dinner plans. On Wednesday, I intentionally cleared my schedule in the afternoon and parked across from her building at 5:50 p.m. At exactly 6:00 p.m., my suspicions were validated as I witnessed Megan exiting the building clad in a sleek black coat I hadn't seen her wear in years, paired with tight jeans and darker lipstick than her usual style. Walking closely behind her was a tall, confident man exuding a laid-back California vibe. They shared a moment of laughter, with her resting a hand on his arm. No longer needing further confirmation, I decided not to follow them. That night, Megan returned home close to midnight, spinning an elaborate tale about drinks with the team and brainstorming at someone's apartment. I simply nodded, barely reacting. As my suspicions had been solidified, I too casually, Tyson might be moving back to Leh in a few weeks. Guess he's not sure yet, me quietly. Is that so? Inside, I felt the cold certainty. Something between us had broken, and she wasn't even trying to fix it. She was drifting away, chasing a new infatuation. I made a decision right then. If she was going to leave, I wouldn't fight for someone who was already half out the door. But I would control how it ended. A subtle show of calm. The next morning, I surprised her by making pancakes. It wasn't something I did often. So naturally, she gave me a questioning look as she stepped into the kitchen, hair still damp from the shower. Megan frowned slightly. Pancakes? What's the occasion? Me with a calm smile? No occasion. Just felt like being good to my wife. She smiled back, but there was hesitation in her eyes, a mixture of caution and guilt. It was as if she sensed I knew something, but she wasn't sure how much. That Friday, I proposed we go out to dinner, just the two of us. Phones off. We barely talk anymore. Shall we have a genuine conversation tonight? Let's try to avoid any distractions, Megan. Seemed like you agreed quite quickly. Sure, that does sound nice. I've observed that guilt often leads people to comply with requests. Megan appeared relieved and perhaps even hopeful that I was simply attempting to reconnect. However, my true intention was to see if she would be honest with me before I presented her with my evidence. We opted for a cozy restaurant in Midtown, a quiet place with soft lighting and an intimate ambience. Megan wore a modest black dress that exuded elegance. I couldn't help but notice how stunning she looked and how far apart we had drifted in just a short period of time, leading up to the inevitable confrontation. Throughout the first half of dinner, we engaged in polite small talk. We touched on potential vacation plans, trips we had discussed but never taken, for new job responsibilities, and a few aspects of my own work. However, I could tell that she was avoiding certain topics. Whenever I broached a sensitive subject, she would deflect or change the subject. As dessert was served, I knew it was time. Leaning in slightly and lowering my voice, I asked Megan, "Do you ever think about how marriages crumble gradually?" Megan stated, her eyes narrowing. Curious, I gently tapped my fork against the plate and inquired, "What do you mean?" "It's not an abrupt process," she explained. "Late nights lead to deception, and innocent touches escalate. Suddenly, everything changes." There was a tense pause as she stopped mid-spoonful and looked at me. "Baron, what are you suggesting?" She whispered. Meeting her gaze, I confessed, "I saw you with Tyson last Wednesday evening. I was parked nearby, watching as you laughed with him as if I didn't exist." Her expression drained the color as she hesitated, then accused, "You're following me." I shook my head. "No, I was observing. There's a distinction." She remained silent, her side cracking for the first time in weeks, revealing genuine fear and regret. "Megan, Baron, I'm sorry. It's not what you think," she stammered. Leaning in, I held her gaze steady and spoke softly. "I'm not looking for explanations. I have just one question." As she tried to respond, no words emerged. Silence enveloped us. I caught every subtle movement and nuance. Her eyes flickered around nervously, and she absently rubbed her thumb as if trying to erase an unseen mark. After a prolonged pause, she gathered the courage to speak. "I haven't been intimate with him," she said. I interjected quietly. "I didn't inquire about that." Her voice quivered as she continued. "It's not what you think. He listens to me." I found myself looking forward to our conversations, feeling acknowledged, finding joy again. She trailed off, unable to complete her thought. I took a deep breath and calmly stated, "So you were seeking something extra on the side?" Her gaze turned sharp. "That's not fair. I never intended to cause you pain," I replied evenly. "What's unfair is witnessing my partner drift away while pretending everything is normal." She pushed her dessert plate aside and bowed her head. Then she uttered the words that would change everything. "I think I need some space. Just a weekend to clear my mind." I leaned back, an odd sense of tranquility washing over me. "A weekend with him?" I inquired. After a moment of hesitation, she whispered, "Yes." It felt like something inside me detached, like a chain breaking free. I responded calmly, "I understand." Her voice trembled as she said, "I'm not seeking your approval, Fen. I'm just hoping for your understanding." Standing there, I pondered whether the emotions coursing through me were authentic or merely a passing infatuation. Though my jaw tense, I managed to keep my voice steady as I addressed Megan. "You're proposing 3 days apart to explore a different life, Megan." I pleaded earnestly for transparency from both of us. With a resolute gulp, I downed my drink in one gulp and delicately set the glass back on the table. No, Megan, you're seeking an escape with no remorse. Take your weekend. But know that when you return, I may not be here waiting for you, I conveyed before rising from my seat, leaving the bill behind as I exited the scene. That night, I didn't confront her at the door of our shared abode, nor did I create a dramatic spectacle by flinging clothes about or penning a poignant note. Instead, in a composed manner, I gathered my belongings, clothes, important papers, and a small box containing cherished old photographs and discreetly packed them in a suitcase. Megan was absent, likely already in the company of the other man. By the time she messaged me inquiring could we talk, I had already secured accommodations under an alias at a temporary residence across town, prepared in case she sought me out. As the days unfolded, Saturday slipped away, followed by Sunday. By Monday morning, Megan had sent a series of texts followed by a lengthy email, all of which I chose not to open. I found no need for an explanation or a half-hearted apology, as confusion could not excuse betrayal. Later that afternoon, while she was out, I returned to our home, walking through each room to reminisce on what was once our shared life, selecting a few final items: a jacket, a spare charger, some shoes, and the watch she had given me during our second year of marriage. I also removed my wedding band and placed it on the dining table alongside divorce papers with my signature already affixed. A brief message atop the papers read, "You don't get to test drive other lives and come back to mine," with no threats or animosity. Only a statement of truth followed by the period. I exited the house for the last time. When Megan called later that night, I let the phone ring, having made peace with the fact that I was leaving not out of anger, but out of a sense of finality and closure. I had moved on. As weeks blurred into months, the divorce process accelerated. I was surprised by the turn of events, perhaps because she didn't contest anything. Maybe she held on to hope that I would change my mind. I settled into a simple, modern apartment, appreciating the newfound peace and quiet. Gone were the nights filled with anxiety and doubt. Now it was just me able to enjoy freedom. Megan kept the house, the furniture, and the photos on the walls. I pictured her wandering through those empty rooms, reminiscing about our past life together. Occasionally, she would text me on my birthday or send brief, formal messages. I replied curtly, lacking any warmth. Then, a year after our divorce, I received an unexpected email from a woman named Alia who used to work with Megan. The subject line intrigued me. "I thought you should know about Tyson." My curiosity got the best of me, so I opened it. Alia revealed that Tyson had moved on shortly after our split, not staying faithful to Megan either. He was involved with other colleagues, including younger hires. Megan did not take the news well. Nothing was changed for me. I already knew the outcome of that story. By chance, a few weeks later, I bumped into Megan at a downtown cafe. There was a shift in her demeanor, a sense of dimness, as if a light had been extinguished within her. A half-drunk cup of tea and a paperback novel lay forgotten on her table. Our eyes met in the crowded space. "Megan," I greeted with a faint smile. "Farron, it's been a while," she replied. I nodded politely. "Megan." We stood there in silence, the weight of unspoken regrets hanging in the air. She made a gesture indicating I could join her at the table. For a moment, I considered it. Then memories of lonely nights and shattered trust flooded back. "Megan, you look well," I remarked with a light shrug. "Thank you, too," she responded, a lie coded in gentleness. She appeared weary, bearing burdens that seemed too heavy for her to carry. Softly, Megan asked, "You ever ponder on what transpired?" I replied, "No, I experienced it. That's sufficient." Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, but I felt no inclination to offer comfort. Instead, I gave a polite nod and walked away without looking back. It's been 3 years since I left that house, since I put my ring on the table and walked out. People sometimes ask if I'd ever get married again. My response is always the same. Maybe, but only if it comes with peace, not noise. That's not fear, it's clarity. I know my own worth now. I refuse to negotiate with someone who isn't sure I'm enough. I still see mine in passing at social events or around the city. She smiles as though we're just distant acquaintances. Smile back. No bitterness remains, just a sense of history that doesn't need reliving. She remarried once briefly, it didn't last. The rumors say he traveled often, and Mayan suspected he was unfaithful. She found proof, confronted him, and he walked out without a word. Karma doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just holds up a mirror. As for me, I'm seeing someone new, Lenya. She's not dramatic or flashy. She talks straight, laughs openly, and doesn't play games. With her, I don't feel a need to chase attention or prove my worth in North. I simply feel seen. It's clean. It's safe. It's real. A few weeks back, I was cleaning old files on my laptop and found a folder of pictures from my time with Megan. We looked so young, so confident, grinning without a care. But I didn't feel sadness, only gratitude. Because the day someone shows you they're willing to risk everything you've built together for something fleeting, they've also given you a gift, freedom. I don't need revenge or endless apologies. I just needed the truth. And once I had it, I made my choice and never looked back. That's the part people forget. You don't win by begging someone to choose you. You win by walking away when they don't, and then by staying on. Author's note: sometimes letting go isn't about punishing someone else. It's about freeing yourself from a situation that no longer nurtures your heart or soul. When you sense that shift, that subtle betrayal in words unspoken, and nights spent wondering, is often already too late. The quiet departure is not a sign of weakness. Self-respect is the foundation of any relationship. Therefore, I ask you, what is the true dissolution of a relationship? Tumultuous conflicts and final ultimatums, or a quiet, resolute departure? Share your thoughts on this matter. If you discover meaning in this tale, consider passing it along to those who could benefit from its message. And keep in mind, staying silent doesn't indicate weakness. At times, it can be the most powerful decision for yourself and your tomorrow.